My daughter's teacher said I made her painting, so I had my 8-year-old prove her wrong. My daughter's art teacher pulled me aside after the school talent show and said, "We need to talk about Sophie's painting." I thought she was about to praise her. Sophie had spent weeks on that sunset piece at our kitchen table, coming home from school and going straight to her paints. She'd been painting since she was 4. She watched tutorials after school and practiced whenever she had free time. So when Ms. Rodriguez folded her arms and asked, "Did you paint this for her?" I thought I heard her wrong. I said, "Excuse me?" She pointed at the painting and said there was no way a 3rd grader made something that advanced. The blending was too smooth. The perspective was too good. It looked professional, and parents did desperate things when competition season started. Then she said the word fraud, like she was talking about a real crime. My stomach dropped. I asked if she was seriously accusing me of cheating in an elementary school art show. She said she was disqualifying Sophie and recommending behavioral counseling because a child who lies this easily needs correction early. Before I could answer, Sophie walked over in her little dress from the show and asked, "Mommy, did I win?" Ms. Rodriguez bent down and used that fake, sweet voice adults use when they've already made up their minds. She asked Sophie if I helped with the painting. Sophie looked confused and said, "You mean when Mommy bought me brushes?" Ms. Rodriguez asked again if I actually painted it. Sophie blinked and said, "Why would Mommy paint it? It's my painting." Ms. Rodriguez stood up, looked right at me and said, "Children protect their parents all the time." That was when I knew she wasn't confused. She had decided my daughter was lying and expected us to just take it. That night, Sophie cried herself to sleep, asking why her teacher didn't believe her. Then she asked if painting too good was a bad thing. Hearing that from an 8-year-old made something in me snap. I stayed calm, tucked her in, and made a plan. The next morning, I showed up at school carrying a blank canvas, an easel, brushes, paper towels, and a full paint set. Parents were still dropping off their kids when I walked straight into the classroom. Ms. Rodriguez looked up from her desk and sounded annoyed. I said, "Sophie, honey, could you paint something for us right now?" The room went quiet. A few parents stopped. Ms. Rodriguez rolled her eyes and said this would prove nothing because Sophie could have practiced one picture over and over. I said, "Then you choose what she paints." She hesitated. Finally, she crossed her arms and said, "Fine, paint a butterfly." Sophie didn't panic. She climbed onto the stool, pulled the canvas closer, and stared at it before starting. Then she picked up her brush and began mixing colors. Orange, darker orange, brown, a touch of white. Her tiny hand moved with confidence. She blocked out the wing shapes first, then the body, then softened the edges with short, careful strokes. One mom near the cubbies whispered, "She's really doing it." The kids started gathering too, drawn in by how quiet the room had gotten. Sophie kept going like nobody was there. She added black lines to the wings, then layered color until the butterfly started to look real. She leaned in close, then pulled back and added tiny highlights near the top of each wing. Another parent pulled out a phone, then another. Ms. Rodriguez stepped closer and said nothing. I watched her face change from smug to confused, then from confused to stunned. Sophie cleaned her brush, asked me for the smaller one, and added details so carefully the whole room felt frozen. Then she painted a flower under the butterfly because, as she whispered, "Butterflies need somewhere to land." A couple of parents laughed softly. One teacher from next door walked in after hearing the noise and stopped when she saw the canvas. Sophie added little drops on the petals that looked like dew. Someone behind me said, "She's 8?" Nobody answered because nobody could stop staring. 25 minutes after she started, Sophie set her brush down and said, "Done." The classroom stayed silent for one long second. Then people started talking all at once. Ms. Rodriguez stared at the painting, then at Sophie, then back at the canvas like she couldn't make sense of it. I said, "Some kids are gifted. The least adults can do is believe them." Sophie looked up at her teacher and asked, "Can I enter the district competition now?" Ms. Rodriguez swallowed hard, nodded, and said, "Yes, Sophie, you absolutely can." Now some parents are saying I embarrassed her teacher. Was I wrong?